Let's do this. Let's do this, Roger.
All right, let's do it. Mute your shit.
People listen to us. I'm gonna tell them that they're fucking stupid. Like you're stupid.
Hey, people like that shit.
They're stupid. A lot of people are stupid. People are also stupid who say all you need for prepping are guns and ammo. No, you're stupid. You're not gonna last very long.
No, we get into that. We'll get into that.
Good day and welcome to another episode of Culper's Canteen Cup. As always, we want to thank everybody for listening, and including, according to Josh, the stupid listeners that you will be pointed out during this episode as we talk about preppers. But before we start and kick that off, I want to give a special shout out to Carlton Zeus. Thanks again, man, for letting us continue to use your music. Does he even know that we're using his music still? Does he know that the podcast is actually still running? That might be why he hasn't pulled the music, because he's not sure that we're still recording and still putting out episodes. But anyway, be sure to check him out on Apple Music. Check him out at carltonzeus.com. And, thanks again. So before we get into it, it's been a little crazy. Obviously, the COVID stuff is out there. The coronavirus is still going on out there. And I think we all have our little take that, we want to get off of our chest to begin with. So Josh, why don't you kick us off and, let us know what's going out there in your neck of the woods after you take your drink, please.
Dude, this is really good. So, like I said,
it kills corona.
It does kill corona. And if I
no shit, before you start, no shit. So I think there needs to be a test on that, because no shit. Last year, my wife bought me an oyster shucking kit. It's got the chainmail fucking gloves and a little knife or whatever. And so anyway, it's hard to find fresh oysters out here because I live in the fucking desert. But Safeway had fresh oysters. They had like 18 of them. So I said I wanted a dozen initially. So the guy pulls them out and he's like, well, hey man, some of these are dead. I'm like, why don't you just give me 6 of the live ones left? So I get 6 of them against my better judgment because I wanted some oysters. So I bring them home. I shuck 6 of them. I'm pretty sure 2 of them had salmonella. It's kind of like, playing a little bit of Russian roulette. And I don't know if that's what you get from oysters, but whatever's going to make you sick, as far as food poisoning goes. So I immediately after that, I was like, I think a couple of those might have been bad. So I drank 2 glasses, 2 shots basically of E.H. Taylor small batch, figuring that, hey, if there's anything in there, the alcohol is going to kill everything in my gut, make it all normal. And that was 2 days ago. Now I'm still fine. So I think there's something being said for alcohol and being able to purify the bad stuff in our body. So anyway, before I cut you off, Josh, let me kick it back to you. Tell us what's going on in your neck of the woods.
No, it's all good, and you're absolutely right. The alcohol will cut. We'll get into alcohol and what kind and how much you should have later in this podcast series on prepping. So I'm drinking a New Riff single barrel rye. It's pretty damn good. It's my second bottle of it, and it's almost empty. And when it's empty, I'm gonna be sad. But we're driving to Kansas next week, so driving through Kentucky and a couple other states. So I'll have an opportunity to find some more. Other than that, man, it's so we're trying to figure out what to do about the school situation. So the North Carolina governor came out yesterday, and if you don't know, the North Carolina governor is a guy named Roy Culper, who I don't know that he knows he's the governor. He's kind of like Stacey Abrams. He knows he's the governor, but he doesn't really know what he's doing. So they came out and they were, North Carolina, bottom line, is not going to open up the schools fully next month, basically in 30 days, 40 days. So they decided that kids will go to school, 1 to 2 days a week, and then it's up to the school districts to figure out the rest, right? They get to, figure out whether you're going to do Monday, Tuesday, and then, at home the rest of the week, or Monday, Wednesday, then the other 50% of the kids show up Tuesday, whatever. And so, but high school students have to be present at their school. They have to be physically present in their class. If it's a technical class, so classes like shop, biology, JRTC, stuff like that, they have to physically be present at school for, but they can't be there for the rest of the day for their classes. They have to go back, they have to travel to the school and then go back home for the rest of their classes and do those online. And while, some people will be like, man, I would love to do online school, it's a little problematic when you have kids who can't drive themselves to and from school and you have parents that work full time, right? How can I be at work at my job, earning money to sustain and support my family when I got to be at home to drive my kid to school for, one class and go pick them up 55 minutes later? Like it does, like it's a shit show. It doesn't make sense. And the other kicker was when North Carolina became a mandatory mask state, right? You have to wear them everywhere you go. There's a lot of dust up. A lot of the sheriffs came out and said we're not enforcing it unless a private business calls us and says, somebody's not wearing a mask. Then they'll come. But other than that, like they're not doing it. There was one little town here in North Carolina that butts up against us, and where our grocery store is, closest one anyway. That they were literally standing outside the Harris Teeter giving tickets to people not wearing masks. And it was just like,
Nothing better to do.
I was like, holy shit, man. Holy shit. Like, I bet you should be proud. You should be proud of your service. You should go home tonight and look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I'm making a difference. Whoa. Anyway, so when they came out with the executive order, it was like everybody basically above the age of 12 has to wear a mask, mandatory mask. And so the reasoning was kids 11 and under, it was a medical issue, a health issue for them to wear a mask, right? Because it makes them hard to breathe and, quote, their respiratory systems are not fully developed. And I was like, I don't know, maybe it probably is by the time you're 11 years old, but maybe not. I don't know, right? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a pulmonologist, whatever. But so they don't have to wear a mask unless you go to school. And even if you're socially distanced at school, you have to wear a mask. Even the kids 11 and under, who they originally said don't have to wear a mask because it's a medical issue. So it's just like there's no consistent guidance. There's no, there's just there's zero consistency to any of this. And when you couple it with all the other COVID nonsense and misinformation and coming out, you don't know what's right, what's not. And people are getting shot because they're not wearing masks and stuff. It is absolutely fucking insane. I think Luke was talking about the COVID stuff earlier, where he's at, a lot worse than, it is where you're at in Apache Junction. So I don't know. I think, how many did you say you guys had in the in the ICU in the entire country, Luke?
Two in the entire country. And in the neighboring country, I think there's 6. And the neighboring country has about 4 times the population of where I am now. And where I am now, the paradigm has been set, and I think the paradigm is set in the States too, which is, I guess it's a combination of fear and lack of critical thinking, where I could be wrong on this, but I think there's been 2 deaths where I am. There's been 2 deaths in the past 3.5 weeks, but the cases have quote unquote skyrocketed. And some people are fudging the numbers and saying they've gone up 900% in the past 3 weeks, 900%, and 600% have tested positive compared to 3 weeks ago. And it's like, okay, if you're going to play around with the numbers like this, why don't you give a negative ratio for the amount of deaths there are right now? I fancy myself a critical thinker, and I really dig into the numbers on COVID. The ones the CDC put out, and as Roger and I were talking about, I think Josh was in on it. The CDC has actually changed their website, and whereas I guess maybe a month ago it looked like a scientific type website where you kind of you have to really dig into it a little bit and do your due diligence, as Roger and Josh would say, on reading the footnotes and sussing things out yourself. But now it looks like a little children's website. They've really changed things up, and they've taken a lot of stats off of there, actually, like how they determine whether it's COVID or the flu and things like that. It's not there anymore. Anyway, the more I look into the numbers, the more questions I have. It's like, well, why are we restricting everything? Is no one looking at the deaths right now? And are the death numbers accurate? I mean, I think it's safe to say that there are so many inaccuracies right now that it's hard to make a decision. I feel sorry for politicians to a point, lawmakers that have to try to weigh their constituency when making these decisions with everybody so frightened. My wife is coming back from the States in a couple weeks, And the rule now is she has to quarantine for 2 weeks. And of course, I'll have to quarantine for 2 weeks because she's coming back from the States. And the way Europe sees it is a lot the way Americans saw Italy about 2 months ago. Everyone in Italy has COVID. Everyone in the US has COVID. So I'll have to quarantine for 2 weeks. So maybe I'll put out a few solo episodes during that time. But and after she gets back, it's a special trip, her coming back. I'll share with the audience what she did when she got back. It's not like it's a secret or anything, but it's something we kind of want to keep quiet until she gets here. That'll be kind of an adventure. Maybe she could even come on the show and talk about it. But yeah, it's just there's a lot of confusion here with COVID. Nobody really. It's like Josh said, they're flying by the seat of their pants. I mean, even where I work every day, there's a new discussion on what the rules are going to be. So it's a very confusing time, but I think all this is going to go away around November or December. So what do you think, Roger?
No, I think you hit it on the head. The whole COVID thing is really just starting to piss me off. And I think it comes down to two pieces. And I'm, I actually like hearing your thoughts about over there because obviously the American politics aren't as involved in different countries. There's a different dynamic there. But here in the States, and this is just my gut feeling and what I think, but it boils down to politics and people don't want to go back to work. And then overall, it goes back to what Josh said. It's consistency. You want to know why people aren't following the guidance? Because there's no consistent message that's being put out there. Because, hey, I'm sorry, and I'll use Josh's phrase, I'm old enough to remember 2 months ago when the CDC said, don't wear masks, right? I mean, it was like 2 months ago, right? 2.5 months ago, something like that. I remember when they were saying, well, wearing masks prevents, 99% of the spread of coronavirus. So why do we have to have social distancing? Because if the masks work, why do we have to have social distancing? The masks don't work, then why are we wearing masks? So, but it's not just that. We get into the politics of it. So one, and this is my black helicopter theory, and maybe it's not such a black helicopter theory, but everybody knows the election is coming up. I believe, because I've been watching the unemployment numbers, and we see these unemployment numbers, and they go down, then you see a couple little upticks here and there, state to state, unemployment filings. So when I did just a quick gurgle, I think other than Florida, which is it's red, it's borderline swing depending on, popular vote, but it seems like every blue state out there has a backlog of unemployment filings. And then miraculously, as the weeks and weeks go on and the economy is improving overall, these new numbers roll out. Well, we had another 100,000 people, file for unemployment. Well, no, they actually filed 2 months ago. You just didn't process them and pay them until today. Okay. So I think there's a political piece of that where they're trying to tank that, shut down the blue states again. Why? To tank the economy. Because the Dow, I think, closed at 26.5 today, give or take, 26,500, plus or minus. So we're back up there. We're back up to, post-Berry numbers and pre-COVID numbers. So as the economy is getting better, people are going back to work. I feel, again, it's just my gut feeling, I feel that a lot of the blue states are out there like, hey, what are we going to do to keep this thing going, right? It's the whole fear mongering and shutting down the economy, and people have to be scared. The other piece to this is some folks just don't want to go back to work. Yeah, I tell you, as I look at folks and trying to get them back in the office, and as we look at hiring and just other small businesses around the area, it is amazing how many people will not go back to work. My mother-in-law works for a medical staffing company, and they staff nurses throughout the country and what have you. She's got all the jobs in the world, cannot get nurses to go back to work. They're used to staying home. They're used to giving that COVID money. And I'm not shitting on all the nurses out there. I'm just talking about a general observation that I'm making and what I feel is going on. But then, you go back to the consistent message, and this is what leads me back to politics. So this was a breaking news story last night on Fox News where they were looking at specific cities in Florida. And this is what kills me. And this is why people don't follow the guidance. Florida, I believe Orlando, they were saying, had a 98% positive test rate. And I hadn't really tracked Florida. Don't live out there, didn't really give a shit. But a couple of investigative journalists were like, hey, 98% sounds, pretty high. So they go down there, they take a look. Well, guess what they weren't counting? They weren't counting the negative tests. I mean, the guy's like, really? Like 98% of the population down here is positive for coronavirus? Well, no, because the negative tests were never reported. And so when they go back, and I guess 2% were inconclusive or whatever, then they go back and they say, okay, we got to fix these records now. So you have to go back and track everybody that came. They come out. Yeah, it actually wasn't 98%. It was more like 9.8%. And then they had another city down in Florida that was, they put out a 96% rate. They go back and look at their records. Oh, sorry, it wasn't 96%. It was 6%. So, the public, as I sit here and I watch the news, I see that. Then I see, the headline, a couple months ago where the Department of Health Commissioner, whatever, came out for Illinois and was straightforward and was like, yeah, we count every death. Everybody who's got COVID that dies is counted as a COVID death. And I think the excuse that she actually used is that you could be terminally ill, given just a few days to live, you die, but you test positive for COVID, it's counted as a coronavirus death, right? Then you have just recent, you had the Arizona mayor come out and gets on national TV. And this goes back to Luke's thing. They make one stupid statement and it takes you paragraphs and paragraphs to disprove it. And by then the news cycle's moved on. But she comes out and says the Arizona morgues, or maybe she said Phoenix, the Phoenix morgues are overflowing. We're at capacity and we have to bring in refrigerated trucks. And not 2 hours later, they went to 3 or 4 of the major companies here in Phoenix that handle that. And they're like, no, that's actually not true at all. And we didn't tell her that at all. We're creeping up a little bit because in the summertime, Arizona tends to operate at capacity anyway, because we have a large elderly population. But nobody from our offices told her that we were at capacity. And oh, by the way, the only reason that we had the refrigerated trucks is because when Governor Ducey enacted his executive order, part of the course of action of that was, hey, you need to go ahead and order refrigerated trucks. So they're not being used. They're not being filled. They're just being ordered because that's part of the surge plan. So she lied on national television. That makes the headlines, makes it all around CNN, MSNBC, everything else, for a lie that never does get cleaned up, right? Nobody goes back because the news cycle has changed. So a lot of that stuff just, it pisses me off. And then you get down to how they test. I read this the other day too, how they test for coronavirus, RT, the RT PCR test. You realize they said that up to 20% of those tests give you a false negative? Dude, it's incredible. Now, I'm not trying to downplay the coronavirus. I think it's serious. I don't want to catch it. I don't want anybody in my family to catch it. But it goes back to Josh's thing. There is no consistency anywhere. There's, you want people to follow along and take the guidance. Well, put out all the information out there. The problem is the data doesn't necessarily support the claims. And it goes back to what we've been saying for months and months. Actually, we've had our podcast for a couple months now. Yeah. So for months and months, I can say that we've been saying, hey, there are different perspectives, right? You have, medical professionals that are going to give you medical guidance, but it goes beyond that. Okay. It goes, to the economy and jobs and be able to support yourself or what have you. So at the end of the day, it's all starting to piss me off because it sounds like just a bunch of sheeple out there, and it's politics, and it comes down to people not wanting to work. And as I thought about this, and I didn't come up with this topic, Josh and Luke came up with it. You guys ever see the movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas?
Yo.
Dude, I'm not there, okay? So nobody report me for shooting up my neighborhood or being angry or the PTSD vet or whatever, right? But I see how people get to that point. I truly see how people get to that breaking point because you just get fed up with it. You get fed up with defending yourself. You get fed up with the failed expectations. You get fed up with your government. You get fed up with your local leaders. So as we started talking about that, and we started talking a little about, economic and societal decline, and I guess we can actually say societal decline because I think the economy is, getting a lot better. But the whole, preppers came up. So I am not a subject matter expert in this by any means. So I spent the last couple of days doing some gurgling and, became as smart as I can with the time that I have. But Josh, why don't you tell us, a little about, about preppers, what they prep for, their mindset, and we'll kick it around the horn a couple of times.
Yeah. So, all right. So you kick it over me like I'm the crazy PTSD vet, prepper mindset. So, I mean, I don't call myself a prepper. I don't consider myself a prepper. Growing up in Florida, obviously, hurricane season was always generally a significant emotional event for us. It was just, you were going to get a hurricane, in the panhandle of Florida, it was going to happen. Now, whether it came in from the Atlantic or whether it came in from the Gulf, 9 times out of 10 it didn't matter. But so we on the for the prepping stuff, we really looked at it. It really hit home in March. When they came out and they said everybody stay home. It was it was COVID quarantine and everything, and you start looking at your supply. You're like, all right, man. So hurricane season gets here. Everybody, you go buy batteries. You make sure you got some extra canned food, some perishables. Just sustain yourself for a week or so, right? Because that's generally about how long. If a really bad hurricane comes into where you're at, that's generally about how long you're going to be without power. So I went through Hurricane Andrew, and I rode it out in South Florida because most Floridians, a Cat 1, 2, or 3, like it's a party. Like there's slip and slides, there's kegs, we're just hanging out, right? It's just like it's a party. And so Hurricane Andrew was coming. We were actually down at West Palm Beach, getting ready for diving. I was doing my my open water dive certification, and we were like, fuck it, man, it's a hurricane. We're Floridians, like this is our thing, right? And I tell you, after riding out Hurricane Andrew, if it's a 4 or 5, like pack your shit, we are leaving. Because even having after been all over Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Somalia, like I have never been as scared as I was in the middle of Hurricane Andrew. Like I legit was like, because there's nothing you can do about it, right? It is Mother Nature. Like there's not a damn thing you can do about it. At least at war, man, you can shoot back, you can get behind like something, dude. Cat 5 hurricane rolls in, that's it. Like you just can't stop that thing. And so, so up here, we started looking around. It was like, all right, we're running a little low on toilet paper. We need to go find some toilet paper, right? But at the end of the day, we were fine. We got some, and every time I saw some, I'd buy some, and stuff like that. And so we were fine. But once the growth, once things started closing down, like restaurants started closing down, like there was a run on canned goods, there was a run on boxed pasta, there was a run on the meat and chicken were long gone. And so you go to the grocery store, and I could always tell. I use this to gauge it, right? I looked and was like, okay, so all the ground beef is gone, all the ground chuck is gone, and all the chicken breasts are gone. I was like, it's not that bad yet, because the filet mignon's still there, the porterhouses are still in stock, like all the expensive stuff is still there. So I was like, okay, it's not that bad. People aren't hungry yet, right? Yeah, it's just like. There was still Spam on the shelf, and I grew up. My dad would fry. We would cut up Spam and potatoes, and we would fry them because I grew up in the South, and that's what we do to shit. We fry it. And dude, I don't know how many times I made a meal off of just Spam and potatoes, right? And that's just what you eat when you're poor. So there for a while, it was like, all right, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Well, when they started shutting down the meat plants, the meat processing plants, then you started to see even the expensive stuff start to disappear. And you're like, okay, like it's starting to get real. And then it's a wake up call. It's like, I need to have, X amount of stuff on hand. Right. If you have it's like the military supply, strategy. If you have 1, you have 0. If you have 2, you have 1. If you have 3, you have 2. Right. It's just that mentality. And so, we realized that it's like, man, we are not as prepared as we probably should have been for this. And so it got us thinking, like, I'm not burying a 500-gallon fuel tank in my backyard to make sure I have gas and shit like that. Right. Because we're busy having a pool put in. And so we, really got to look at the prepping thing. And I have friends who they are serious preppers. And, they're like, okay, here are the basic steps that you need to start prepping. And I was waiting for the, go buy guns and ammo. Right. And that's not what they started with. So for all you people out there buying up all the guns and ammo, that's fine. You could be the Negan when everything goes south. But you're not going to last that long because somebody's going to kill you and, take your shit. So anyway, so it was like, okay, like the basic stuff. And I'm talking about like these guys prep to the point of like, they got their ham radio license. Like they have handheld CBs, everything. And it came into play for some of them when Hurricane, I want to say it was Michael, rolled into North Carolina, I think 2018. And it knocked out, a lot of folks on the coast were without power for a week or so. I don't know what's happening to Luke. So, they looked at the basic steps, the basic steps to prepping. First and foremost is you have to have personal finance and your health in order, right? You have to have a solid foundation for your personal health and finance. A lot of people talk about, oh, you need this amount of food on hand, you need this. If you don't have your health, you're not going to be able to survive. I look at it like almost like a SEER school, start is like the first thing you have to do in any bad situation is survive, right? You have to survive that initial contact to evade and get away and live to fight another day, right? So if you don't have your health, if you're not able to beat somebody's ass +1, you're probably not going to last very long in a post-apocalyptic, situation. And then, it's like get your home ready for about 2 weeks. Everybody should have in their home at a minimum. And so we're talking natural disasters, right? We're talking hurricanes, earthquakes. And we're kind of going to break this down, hurricane, earthquakes, stuff like that. It's a couple weeks of, you're going to be uncomfortable. And then, okay, there's civil unrest, right? That's a couple of months. That may be a couple of months, or you're quarantined in your house for a couple, kind of like, I don't know, the last, couple of months. And then then we can go into like post-apocalyptic, like society is broken down, government no longer exists. Like it's the Walking Dead scenario, right? There might not be zombies walking around, but it is literally every person for themselves, right? So, but in your house, you should have 2 weeks of stuff. You should have 2 weeks of food, 2 weeks of water. And I'm talking about water, not you go turn your tap on and run your water, but you should have 2 weeks of actual water. Right. If we're talking your tap doesn't work because, natural disasters, earthquakes, hurricanes, stuff like that. Like that is going to, knock out city water. Maybe you're on a well, unless you got a generator on your well, that pump's not working. Maybe you got a windmill because you live out in Texas, or maybe you're like Roger and you have a windmill because you live in Apache Junction, Arizona, where there's a lot of wind. I don't know. And then, you need to be able to leave your home, right? So people call them bug out bags. You also need to get home bags, right? Because you're not always going to be at home when disaster strikes. It's like having a firearm. You're not always going to be in your bedroom at night when, disaster strikes, dude. You could be in your kitchen when, an intruder comes through your back door. So you need to have a get home bag and an everyday carry, and then learning those core skills and practicing with your gear. So I just bought a new tent because I'm going to go spend some time over the mountains backpacking, disconnected from social media and life in general, and get my head on straight. And you see those people when you're out camping and stuff. You see those people, the people who didn't prepare because they pull their tent out of their bag and they're cutting the tags off of it, and then they're reading the instructions and shit. And you're like, you didn't practice with your shit. There was no PCCs.
You've
no
been
PCI.
camping with me, clearly.
Right. So there's no PCCs, PCIs going on, anything. Right. And so people think I'm crazy, but like I'll be out in my yard, with my new tent with my headlamp on at night, setting it up because I want to be able to, it's like, hey man, I need to practice setting it up at night because I may have to set this thing up at night with a headlamp, at some point. It's just practicing with your gear. That's, and then, sharing and recruiting and getting others and to, kind of have those basic supplies and that basic foundation set because it's important and the main reason because what we have seen, it's like fuck man, it's like Black Friday in November. If your neighbor is not prepared and you have a bunch of shit and they don't have any shit, they're gonna come over and Negan you and take your shit, right? So if you can get everybody around you as prepared as you are, right? I mean, that keeps everybody at bay, right? I mean, it's just, so that's kind of my take on it. I think it'd be good to, break it down, kick it around here with some of the basics. I know you said you've done some research. I know Luke's a street fighter from way back in the day. And, Luke's been around the world. So, those are my basics. That's kind of how I looked at it and kind of approached it in the last couple of months, just taking a look at it. And there are definitely some changes that we need to make here, for us. Again, like, so peaches, Dude, we didn't prune our peach tree like we should have at the beginning of the year, and we pulled 126 pounds of peaches off our tree last week. Right, absolutely insane. And so, we gave some, we gave a bunch to the neighborhood. We kept some, and then we started looking at it, but the neighborhood didn't take all of them. So we're looking at them, like, what are we going to do with these? And it was like, well, fuck, man, let's can them. Right. My parents can potatoes and vegetables like it's going out of style. The apocalypse ever happen, like I'm going to my parents' house if I can get there. Like I'm going there because they have my dad probably has 8-9 months worth of food at their house. And I'm talking about food. I'm not talking about like you're not going hungry every day. Like you can eat like normal, every day. And so, but it goes back to learning those skills, sewing, canning, being able to grow and sustain your own food and, store it and all that, all those things. So that's kind of how, after the last couple of months of a wake up call, like, hey man, you need to get your shit together and be able to do this. Everybody talk about, you just need guns and ammo. Those people are stupid. Those are the stupid people that Roger referred to earlier. So if you're that person, if you're either it's too late to start planning now, you're already screwed, you're stupid. And if you just say, well, go buy guns and ammo and then you can take other people's shit, like, a la Negan in The Walking Dead, well, you're stupid too. And you know what? You may take a couple people's shit, but you're not going to take my shit. So let me know how that works out for you. Luke's sitting here shaking his head, just kind of like half smiling. So I'm going to shut up and give it to him.
Yeah, I'm from the mean streets of Glendale, Arizona, and Southwest Amarillo, Texas. Shout out to my peeps in the 806. It's funny. Carlton Zeus was messaging me a second ago while Roger was talking, and he actually had a guy named Vinny Rocco Vargas over to his house there in San Antonio, who's a former Army Ranger. He's known for the TV series The Mayans MC, something like that. I haven't seen it, but it's a spinoff of that other motorcycle show. I can't remember. He's also was in the movie Range 15. He has a pretty successful podcast. He's going to give us some pointers. So shout out to Vinny for that. He's also real interested in reading our book. So Carlton Zeus had a special request for Josh. Please have Josh sound off with a list of people or groups that can go fuck themselves. Fire, 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 fire. So we'll be waiting on that, Josh, for next time around. Yeah, this prepper episode got a lot of feedback on the Facebook page, and we started thinking, the more we talked about it, the more we realized, man, there's a lot to unpack with this. I mean, a lot. There are different degrees and levels of prepping, and I really think that the movement has been around. Roger probably looked this up too. It's been around for a while, man, in the U.S. As far as a movement goes. And I think it kind of really started in the 1950s, prepping for nuclear bombs and stuff like that. But I believe that Americans have a specific like pioneer, independent type mentality, and that's really, when it comes down to it, prepping is kind of a form of independence. And like I said, there's different levels of it. Like take a car, for instance, a vehicle. Do you know how to change a tire? Well, you're prepared to deal with a flat tire in the middle of nowhere. Do you have a spare jack or a spare tire and a jack in your car? Well, that's prepping. That's prepping for something that could go wrong. You can take that even further. Do you have tools in your car? Extra spark plugs, things. Do you know how to fix those things? Do you know how to diagnose your engine? Do you have a flashlight in your car? Do you have signaling equipment? In cold weather, do you have chains, blankets, extra water, extra fuel, dig out equipment where you got to dig your car out? I mean, there's different levels you can prepare to either drive a long distance or just to drive in general. So, yeah, I mean, I think when I was living in San Antonio, I lived in the same house for about 4 years. And I have a lot of friends who aren't necessarily preppers, but they like to be prepared for anything. So I kind of started my collection, and the more I delved into it, the more I realized how complex and how much planning has to go into actual prepping. So I kind of broke it down. I was like, okay, it's going to be step by step. And I'm going to go with, what do I need to be prepared for 4 months of nothing? no more grocery stores, no more electricity, no more nothing. So I started to collect food. I started to do the math on what I would need. And I got around to where realistically, for a family of four, we could have gotten by for 4 months with rationing. Uh, we got to a good point, and we can get into what I had and things like that. I would like to get to a point where I could go for an entire year at some point, but being overseas, that's next to impossible. Because number one, I can't have weapons over here. Well, I can, but it's not feasible legally. And the only weapons I have here in the house are like kitchen knives and a pair of Eskrima sticks. A shitload of the good that's going to do me in this zombie apocalypse. But,
and a lazy ass dog.
yeah. Well, they bark real loud. But I think was it Stan that said something about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs on the Facebook page? Do you guys? It was Stan. Okay, that was a good point. That's kind of a good starting point. I mean, it's a lot of this prepping stuff is common sense, at least with when you're looking at like the natural disaster, like Josh is saying, okay, be prepared for a month, either to bug out and then come back, or to weather the storm without electricity. So I always went with, what's the thing I can't survive more than 3 days without? And that's water. Dude, water, you cannot survive without water for more than 3 days. And 3 days is pushing it. And that's with good weather and not moving around and just drinking water. So yeah, there was a lake near the house in San Antonio. I had a few water storage containers. I always figure I will probably be able to see these things coming. That's probably a mistake. But I figured, well, if I can see it coming, I'll fill the bathtubs, plug them up. Roger said earlier he's got a pool out behind his house. That's good for a while. That's water. You'd be surprised if anybody's ever gone a day without drinking water. You'd be surprised what you drink. You'd be surprised at the fluids you drink. Your body starts tricking you, and you go crazy. You really do. I see how people drink ocean water when they're stranded at sea and stuff, because man, you just can't fight it. But real quick, the back to the hierarchy of needs. It goes from, it's a pyramid, and at the top, well, we'll start with the bottom, and you can't have the top without having the bottom. The bottom are your basic needs, your physiological needs, your water, your food, warmth, in other words, shelter, and rest. You have to be able to rest. You have to be able to sleep. You're not going to be able to function to get to those higher level and fulfillment needs. So you got to have shelter, basically, and you got to have clothing. You have to have food and water. Okay, those are your basic needs. You cannot live without those things. The next level up is safety needs, security and safety. That's where a lot of people get stuck when they think about prepping. They start thinking about all the guns they're going to need. And it's like, okay, did you think about the water? Let's think about water first, because you're going to run out of water before someone's going to come and try to take your shit. The next level up, it's kind of touchy-feely, but it is true. I mean, you're going to need, friends and relationships. Unless you're the loner Ted Kaczynski type, you're going to need friends and family, and community. Because Roger's going to go down a road here in a little while, I have a feeling, where it's like, if we're looking at an Armageddon type situation, very few people are going to be able to survive without community. So that's going to be important. And that's the third level. The getting toward the top is esteem needs, like feeling of accomplishment. Well, let me tell you something. I mean, it sounds stupid, but some of the most satisfied people that I've ever met have been farmers and ranchers who grow their own food, provide their own food to other people. I mean, there's a sense of accomplishment in even having a garden. So, I mean, there's esteem needs. At the very top is self-actualization, the real belly gazing, achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. Okay, so if you have all those things, the theory is you're going to be satisfied. But you can't have self-actualization, creative activities, and achieving your full potential if you die of thirst within 72 hours. So it kind of works like that. And we kind of want to tackle this and go to Roger first on this. We're going to tackle this and start with kind of what Josh kicked off with, of let's take a situation where everything shuts down for 30 to 60 days. So if you could give me like your opinion on what you would do right now, and like what might cause that, like 30 to 60 days without electricity, other than hurricanes or earthquakes. And if you can't think of anything, that's fine. I'll just kick it to you.
I can't think of anything else. No, I want to roll it back just a little bit because you brought up a good point with your, the car breaking down. And so the very first thing we got to look at when we look at preppers, and again, I'm not the expert at this. I just look at what I myself look at and what I would do. And as as I started gurgling this stuff and you get down this rabbit hole, I mean, prepping is huge. It is huge. And at first, when I first, somebody says prepping, I think I might have even said that to Josh. Oh, guns and ammo. That's like the first thing that pops in everybody's mind, right? Because of The Walking Dead, and I got to defend mine, and I'm going to take your shit, and whatever. But it goes beyond that. It's way bigger because we all think about natural disasters, and I know we'll go down this road here in a minute, but it goes beyond that. What are you prepping for? Because here's another thing that we were out of. What did we start off with? We were out of toilet paper. Then I think we were out of milk. Then we went out of meat, charcoal. We were out of tofu. Now there's a coin shortage, right? We're out of coins because people aren't out there fucking, spending money. So there's no coin. There's a coin shortage. But you say, hey, what are you prepping for? The other piece of that we were out of jobs, and we were out of finances, and we were out of money. So when you look at prepping, it's not just about guns and ammo. It's not just about the little things I shouldn't say little things, but about the physical and material things that we're getting ready to talk about, as far as the food and water, but it goes beyond that. What are you prepping for? And I tell you, one of the things I don't see a whole lot of in the 2 days that I've read a lot of this. So I know there's some experts out there that listen to our podcast, so you can feel free to call me a dumbass or I missed a point or whatever. But a big part of prepping is finance and making sure that you're financially secure, one, to stay in the house that you're in. Because I think when you talk about the first 30 days, Luke, let's bypass or set aside the electricity piece for a minute. Money will get you a long ways to begin with. Now, when you get to the point of economic and societal breakdown, okay, when you get to the Negan stage and this and that, okay, money at that point, you're just fucking warming your house or whatever. But I would tell you for the first couple weeks, first couple months, and you saw it during Corona, and you still see it now to an extent, money will get you a long ways. And I've said this with the national debt as, not to go off on a tangent, but, part of the struggle or part of the challenge being a nation that's in so much debt and running such a deficit is that when shit happens, you don't have the fiscal means to provide that assistance. And as an individual level, if you don't have that means to make sure it's your house is taken care of for 6 months or what's the rule of thumb now? It used to be like 60 days. Now I think it's like 4 or 6 months, right?
Wow. Is it?
Yeah, I think that's with the whole COVID. They're like, hey, you got to look at 4 to 6 months of survival on income.
You should have 4 to 6 months of expenses, in say rest, sitting there that you can take care of yourself.
So you have to, from my point of view, that's one of the first things I look at is the financial point. That hey, look, as long as I've got my house, I've got my car, I can buy fuel, I can buy those basic needs or whatever. That to me is one of the fundamentals that I build upon, because when I look at prepping, and I don't want to oversimplify this, but I kind of break it down into 3 categories. I look at it as a finance. I look at it as sustenance, so your food, water, all the stuff that you need to eat to survive, and then your actual survival / protection, protecting your own, protecting your shit, protecting your goods and belongings. So to begin with, something that you can't do it overnight, but most of the other stuff you can buy or learn fairly quickly. It's like, hey, first you got to get your finances in order. Make sure that you can stay in your house for the 4 to 6 months. Make sure that you can go out and buy the food that you're going to need to buy. Make sure you can go out and buy, because here's the thing. Now, I'm not paying, $30 a roll of toilet paper, but if I needed to spend $30 for a roll of toilet paper at the time, I had the means to go do that. And that's what I mean with, there's going to be a point, and we all see it, right? I think they even have laws against it, price gouging and this, that. Once a disaster hits, whether it's a natural disaster or an economic disaster or whatever, price gouging, prices go up. And you know what? If you have the money and the financial ability to go buy that, then you're going to be fine. And, when I say go buy it, I'm not talking about, just, whimsically throwing your money out there. I think beyond this, it goes back to, I think Josh said, you have to determine what your priorities are. What do I have to have? You got to have water. You got to have food. There's certain staples that you have to have. So, when we talk about the finance and Josh talks about 4 to 6 months of expenses, we're not talking about, well, hey, how much money do I need to keep the Netflix going for 6 months? Or how much money do I need? Because at that point, I give 2 shits about Hulu, Netflix. The internet's tough to get away with nowadays because it is a form of communication. And for a lot of folks, it's the only way they can communicate or keep informed. But at some point, if you go down societal collapse, does that even exist anymore? So that might not even be an option. But, as a family, you definitely want to determine, hey, what are the priorities? What am I have to haves? What do I have to survive? What do I need to do to support myself fiscally? And then the sustenance piece, it's, I want to throw this to Josh because I'm kind of curious. I was just thinking of this as I was going through my pantry, because I think I have a pool, 35,000 gallons. Long story short, I got enough water to last me for a while, which is kind of crazy out here in Arizona. But that is a big concern that I didn't have to, I don't have to worry about here, that I did have to worry about living in other places. Now, when you get farther down the road, I might have to worry about protecting that and securing that. But, on the surface of it, I do have the water. When it comes to sustenance, and maybe this because both of us were in the Army for a long time, and Luke for a little while, we're used to making do with very little. I got to give a shout out, right? I get a little jab every now and then to Luke about quitting the Army, right? Just to keep it a little alive. But, I sit here and look at what I can survive off of. And I know all three of us, especially in our younger private days, that, hey, look, I hate to break it to people, but early on in the Army, you don't make a whole lot of money. And early on in the Army, you're generally younger and you make a lot of poor life decisions. And that usually means to lack of decisions as far as what you can eat. So I think all three of us, and most of your college students out there can relate as well, is you can go a long time off some really like shitty sustenance, right? But what I started thinking was, okay, there's one thing to survive. We've all been through the schools where, man, I was eating cookies out of a damn trash can or whatever the fuck I found. But then I look at, well, I've got a family. Josh has a family. Luke has a family. So then you start to say, well, it's not just enough to survive. I mean, it is to a point, but did you ever get your family involved as far as like the food? I mean, I know I never did. I never looked at my wife and kids like, hey, for 4 to 6 months, what do you have to have in here to eat? Because I'll eat anything, right? You get hungry enough, you're just gonna fucking eat. I tell my kids that all the time. They don't want to eat the green beans. Like, you know why you're not eating the green beans? Because you've never truly been hungry. So I don't know. I told to Josh, you've got younger kids. I mean, have you taken that look to say, hey, talk to your wife and the kids, what do you exactly need to survive over the next 4, or even give thought to that type of stuff?
We didn't until COVID hit, honestly. And, it was one of those things where it was like, the kids are like, well, why can't I have grilled chicken tonight? It was like, because there's no grilled chicken to be had at the store. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. It's like there's squirrels in the bird feeders out back. Like I can go knock out some squirrel. We can make a pot of rice with some squirrel and put some gravy in it. Like, I had that as a kid. It's a fantastic meal. Never really had that conversation until COVID, but it was one of those things, right? Because I grew up hunting and fishing. That was my dad. Again, my dad was a quintessential man. He hunted, fished, rebuilt carburetors on Saturday mornings and, was drinking beer by noon. And so, we had that conversation once COVID hit. It was like, hey, I go back to that grocery store example. It's like, okay, well, there's still Spam on the shelf. So people aren't hungry yet, right? People are still eating well, right? Yep. There's still canned corned beef hash on the shelf. People aren't hungry yet, and that's just what, like you said, when you're hungry, you're going to eat anything. Like when you are truly, truly hungry and that, your belly's pinching you, like you will make decisions and you will eat things you don't normally eat. And that's just, that's the survival instinct coming out. That's I think in every human's DNA. So we never really had the conversation about food. You do bring up a good point about, and Luke brings up a good point about what do you need, right? I don't need in my bug out bag. I don't need my Game of Thrones book and my, back in the day, like, whoever had that, the PlayStation Portable. You don't need that. We're talking about survival, right? We are talking about literally survival. And that's where that network is important, right? And you build that network, you're with your neighbors and your friends. And, where I'm at, I'm lucky enough to live close enough to some people who are true preppers, right? They are tried and true preppers. When they didn't have electricity for weeks, when they didn't have, when their grocery store basically ran out of milk jugs full of water, when they ran out of all the meat, everything, they're just like, oh, it doesn't matter because I have 15 goats out in my backyard that and literally during COVID, during the beginning of April, they went out and slaughtered a goat. And next thing you know, they're like, dude, I'm eating. Like, I am not affected by this at all. Other than I don't have to go to work. Right. And so, you talk about being financially stable, and that's incredibly important because, again, like I don't want to pay $30 for a roll of toilet paper, but if I needed to, I could. Right. But the other thing is the fitness thing, and this kind of goes in. I'm not going to ask Luke how many pounds he's dropped, as part of our fitness challenge.
Oh, I am.
But that's but it's important, right? Your health and your fitness level is important, right? Because you're going to have some late nights. You're going to have, and that's in a survival situation. You literally may not have a weapon. You may have to, move and communicate and all that stuff that goes along with that, and if your physical health is not up there, if you're, you got a few pounds extra around the, around the midsection, you're going to move a little bit slower, man. And I've watched, the National Geographic Yellowstone documentaries, man. All the animals that get killed, man, they're the fat, slow moving ones. They're the ones at the back of the pack that can't move fast. They're the ones that go first, and so I think the health thing is important. That goes along with the finance and something like this. And I'm talking hurricanes, and I'm not talking about post-apocalyptic, like, societal breakdown, money has no value. That's not one of the reasons, but it's one of the positives. I tell my wife that it's like, baby, I have so much booze because this is going to be trade. You can barter with this stuff. Right? You can barter with these. That's going to be the new currency, right? And alcohol has a lot of other applications. But with the food stuff, again, it goes back to those basic skills that I talked about in the beginning. Basically, those core skills and practicing with your gear, those core skills. I'm a big hunter, right? I'm planning a buffalo hunt right now out into South Dakota, maybe North Dakota, whichever outfitter I can get the best price from. And of course, it's one of those things. We are very fortunate here in our country, right? We are one of the only countries that can go hunting on a full stomach, and a lot of people don't have that luxury. A lot of people in the world don't have that luxury. A lot of people have to hunt every day just to survive. We don't. I can go to Harris Teeter. I can go to, Giant grocery store, whatever, and, get the meat I need. But in our DNA, like, it's ingrained in us to go harvest wildlife for food. And, it's one of those things, like, so my wife she will not eat deer. She won't eat venison. She won't eat wild game. She just, it's just like, she doesn't like the thought of killing Bambi and, skinning Bambi out and everything. And I get that to an extent, but because that's how she was raised. But I was raised like, you hunted and fished. That was, it was just what you did, right? You hunted, fished, wore trucker hats, and you drank shitty beer like Natural Light and Busch, right? And so I think it's important that you at least have those basic skills, like I talked about before, and like, I know how to fish. I know how to, even if it's shooting squirrels out of your bird feeder, right? And people laugh about that, and people are like, oh my God, but do you know how to skin that thing? Like, when it comes down to it, you need food. You were truly hungry, like you talked about, like you were hungry, like, the other shit's gone. You can't go down to the store and, buy your box of Gouda Triscuits. You are truly, truly hungry, Okay, so you shot that squirrel. Do you know how to skin it? Can you cook it? People were laughing. People were making fun. People were like, I can't believe you're outside with your backpacking stove, making coffee when we had the last hurricane roll into North Carolina. I was like, dude, you're out without power. Your Keurig doesn't work. And people are looking at me like, hey man, can I come over to your house and use your backpacking stove to make some coffee? Like, yeah, man, come on over. And so, but it's just having that stuff and knowing how to do it. But people are like, oh, you're bougie French press. Yeah, it's bougie until you ain't got no power to run that Keurig. And then it ain't bougie no more, is it? So it's, Yeah, the sustenance conversation, we really didn't have it until COVID, and I know it went on a little bit of a tangent there, um, but I think it's important for people to understand to survive. You're in a survival mode. You're not going to be comfortable. You are going to have to learn how to be uncomfortable. And that's just it. You're not going to have power for a week or two. Like hurricane season in Florida is from June to November. Well, for those people who've never been to Florida, June through November, it's still like Cat 5. You don't have power, which means you don't have air conditioning. You are going to be uncomfortable, but you're going to be alive. And at the end of the day, as long as you're surviving and your family's surviving, that's, what more can you ask for?
And you bring up some good points. Sorry, go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, speaking of bringing up some good points, did any of the rest of the audience notice that Roger just completely ignored what I asked him? It doesn't matter anyway.
I kind of addressed it. I addressed a little bit of it.
To Josh, we're getting metaphysical with it, which I like. This is good. Like I said, there's a lot to unpack. Josh's point, though, about, having a little extra weight and stuff, I heard that, and it's making me, at this point, it's kind of making me doubt this contest we're having. I mean, maybe I need my fat. If this stuff breaks down, if I have an extra layer of fat, number one, it's going to keep me warm, and I'm going to live longer than you skinny people, But on a serious note, you want to see survival and subsistence living. Take a trip to the Badakhshan province of Afghanistan and look at the people who have lived there. And my God, I mean, yeah, by American standards, they don't look healthy, but they are healthy. They have adapted to their environment. They don't need much water. They don't need much food, and they can run up and down those mountains damn near barefooted. And it's like, okay, these people know how to survive. That's though, but they're used to it though. I think if you threw your average American into that environment, they'd be dead in a month living like those people, because for various reasons, because their bodies just aren't used to, not getting essential nutrients. I mean, those people are living probably, if you took their blood, they're, deficient on almost every vitamin out there, but hey, they're still alive. Of course, their life expectancy is only about 48, but it goes to, my dad made a point on the post where he said he read a book, and I'm still waiting to hear what that book is, because I'm interested in it, to where some guy was an actual prepper, and he thought he had everything straight, and then a situation hit that he wasn't expecting, and none of his supplies did him any good. But what did him good was being prepared for it and being able to adapt. And I think that might be kind of what Roger's getting at a lot, is just having, and Josh too, is having the presence of mind to know how to set up the tent and know how to be independent a little bit. I think that's a big part of it. You can prep all you want, but if you don't know how to survive, how to have the mental fortitude to adapt and overcome, it's all the beans in the world aren't going to make any difference. Speaking of beans and stuff like that, luckily my wife has a very strong, I'll call it nesting instinct, to where every time she goes to the store, and this is a good thing, she'll buy a couple of extra cans of something that we're not going to eat, not right now. But if you look at our pantry, dude, I mean, when COVID hit, it's like, okay, even if the electricity goes out, we've got enough canned goods to last for a while. And that's a good thing, because, you can have a full refrigerator, but as Josh will tell you, with those hurricanes, those refrigerators get hot fast, man, inside, and everything's going to go bad. Like Josh said, we have a couple of friends who are serious preppers. I think one guy's name is Tom, right, Josh? Tom?
Yeah. Tom. Yeah, Tom's a serious prepper.
And we'll get Tom on here maybe next month. And another guy, Ryan was on with his wife, Kristen. You guys remember talking about the kids that they adopted. And Ryan is a serious prepper. I mean, well, he knows a lot about it, and he's very common sense approach. He's actually written a couple books, sci-fi dystopian. But he sent this to me. So get this, he sent this to me because he's done the math on it. And if you want an idea of what it would take for, like, not even subsistence living, but to be somewhat comfortable with a full belly for a family of 6, this is what you need. And this is for about a 2,000 calorie per day diet that will definitely keep you alive, and you probably wouldn't lose any weight. So daily, it's going to be 1 cup of oatmeal, 1/2 cup of beans, 1.5 cups rice, 1/2 cup vegetable oil, 1/4 cup lemon juice to fend off the scurvy, and about 1.5 grams of salt. So that's daily, okay? And that's for a family of 6. Total per day, about 2,000 calories. So get this. This is what you'd have to have for a year, okay, of that. Oatmeal, 370 pounds. Dried beans, 365 pounds. He said those come in 1 pound bags, so you get 365 pound bags. So rice is 1,460 pounds, and you can get 50-pound bags of rice at Sam's. Lemon juice, 35 gallons, and salt, 8 pounds. Dude, that not only is that a lot of food, that's a lot of storage area. I mean, think about it. That's for a year, okay? And then, and then it goes on, if you have just a year, during that year, if it's going to go on for longer than a year, societal collapse, you're going to have to start planning in that year for what you're going to eat the next year, if that's all you have. And it's like, at that point, where do you live? Again, I'll go back to the water thing. You're going to raise a garden? That's great. And people always say, I want to raise a garden. I want to raise a victory garden. You know how big your garden's got to be to feed a family? To feed even 2 people? And shit takes time to grow. And guess what it needs? It needs water. I mean, it's tough stuff. In hunting, that's great. I mean, as long as you live in an area that's, has some game. There's not much game here in Slovenia, dude. There's just not. And fishing, that's good. But yeah, it's hard work. You're burning calories while you're hunting, right, Josh? I mean, dude, it's if you've ever hunted, dude, Ryan will tell you, even sitting up in a tree stand when it's cold outside early in the morning, you're burning calories doing that. And there's just so much to think about. Like I said, there's so much to unpack. At first we thought, oh, this will be an easy episode, knock this out. But man, I mean, there's just a lot to talk about. And Roger, I think he's actually scared to go down the apocalypse route but that's what people want to hear, man. They want to hear about zombie apocalypse, figuratively speaking, where, EMPs across the world and bam, dude, now you're on your own. And, I'm sure Tom and Ryan can go down that road, but I think Roger's scared.
I tell you, I'm glad you asked, because we've been given the 30,000-foot level view of, preppers and survival and this and that. And, at the very beginning, we talked about prepping for what? What are you preparing for? And I think we've broken it down to several different, time spans. You have your typical day, lights go out, electricity goes out. Do you really need to do a whole lot? Probably not. You probably have something in your house. You got enough to get you through the day, unless you're a bachelor and you just have absolutely nothing. But then you get to where, like Josh was talking about hurricanes, where I spent a large part of my time in Maryland. So not quite as bad. I shouldn't say not quite, not nearly, nowhere close to Florida. But as far as, how long you're without power and the amount of damage. But at that point, you're looking at, now can you go 7 days? Can you go 2 weeks, right? So there's some actions there that you're going to take from getting over that one day, hey, my power went out, to the 7 days to 2 weeks. And then I think where it gets more difficult is go to that 1 month period. Now, what do you have to get to that 1 month period, that 2 month period, that 4 month period? And then beyond that, and this is kind of, Luke and I were talking about this earlier, and I kind of subscribe. It wasn't really a theory, but one of our listeners, Chris, who's been on the show before, and Luke, even you brought up the second point, but he brought up, hey, adapt. Because I think a lot of my theories to that is, I believe I can reasonably get away with probably 3 to 4 months with what I have right now as far as food. Again, we're not eating filet mignons every night. We're just talking about hitting the 2,000 calories or something close to it, keeping your belly full, staying healthy, having water. So, I could probably get to that 3 or 4 month mark. But I believe that if we get beyond that, and you get to, and maybe most people don't even see that, get to that point, but once you get beyond that, you do get to that apocalyptic, and we're not talking about COVID, we're out of toilet paper, all right? We're talking about, like, no shit, you were providing what you have. You were eating what you have. You were wiping your ass with what you have in the closet, that type of stuff. So I think when you get to that point, you're getting that apocalyptic mode. And at that point, I'm not sure anybody's truly prepared for it. So now it becomes, being able to adapt, and how can you adapt to your situation? How are you going to live in this new world? Because I don't know if you guys have ever seen Naked and Afraid on Discovery Channel. Fantastic show, right? Because you've got folks that go out there and just like, hey, man, you've got your fire starter and like a pot. And I think now they let you carry 3 items. So you've got a pot, because before you had to choose 2. Now you have a knife, a pot, and a fire starter, no clothes, make it on your own. And some of these folks truly thrive. So then you have to say, okay, if I go beyond 4 and 6 months, it's like you're saying with having the whole year's worth of food. Hey, at some point in there, you have to realize that, wow, this is not a short-term solution. This is not a short-term fix. And now I'm going to have to find some way to either grow food, hunt food, but to keep things coming in to replenish what I have, and not just replenish, but continue to survive. The other piece that I thought Luke brought up very, good, that Josh, he didn't even know about this, but he kicked on it, was bartering. Okay, because you're going to get to a point where you're going to have to adapt, right? But the next thing is going to be, and it kind of takes you back to the old days, where you're going to have to barter. It's either going to be goods or some skill set that you have to be able to survive. Now, the fortunate thing is, unless we just get wiped out by a nuke and the blast knocks all your houses down and this and that, I think we can reasonably expect, at least where I'm out here, in Arizona, maybe not necessarily Florida, that at least I'll have somewhere to live. So again, fortunately, it's one of those words that, okay, I think my house is probably going to be standing. If it's not, I probably have bigger issues than that, than how many pounds of beans I have in my closet or whatever. But there does come to a point where you have to say, hey, what can I really bring to the table here? And Josh talked about it a little bit about setting up his tent, but I keep saying this, I actually keep a magnesium strip, and I keep one just in case, and I keep a sharp knife, and there's certain things that's like, hey, there are a lot of things I don't know how to do. Start a fire, isn't one of them. I can start a fire. I have water to drink. I have food. And then from there, it's like, okay, what are you going to do to be able to keep surviving? What are you going to be able to do to, like Luke said, once you eventually start a community, because that's what's going to happen. If you get to that mode, you're going to hang out with your neighbors. You're going to get together, and hopefully you get 3 or 4 or 5 of you together. And at that point, and I take this from Naked and Afraid XL that's on there right now, playing with, they've got 5 or 6 members in a tribe. It's like, hey, what do you bring to the table? What can you do to survive? What can you do to help us survive? So we get to it's not to skirt the issue. I just think once you get beyond that 3 or 4 months, and maybe for most people in America, maybe even before then, if you get to that point where you are truly stuck to eating just what you have in your pantry and stuck to surviving off purely what you have in your house, I think you hit that apocalyptic mode before 3 or 4 months. And at that point, the game's changed. And I'm not sure you can truly foresee them. I think not to say that you shouldn't stock up food and you shouldn't have the water, but at that point, the environment, the operating environment is going to change, and you're going to be forced to adapt and based off your skill sets, what you can bring to the table going forward. So Josh, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it doesn't, you're definitely, certain people obviously have certain skill sets, certain people have certain tolerances, right? I love my air conditioning. I don't like to be hot. I've been to enough hot places on the earth. I don't want to be hot ever again. Right. And it comes back to that. Okay, you're not going to be comfortable, but you're going to be alive. And so, you take it, and, the people talk about the post-apocalyptic stuff, and because everybody likes that. Everybody likes, The Walking Dead, and, government's broken down, everything like that. You don't even have to get to that point to have a significant emotional event and be in a true no shit survival situation. And so you look at the supply chain and how it has been stressed and in places broken during COVID-19, right? And so that's not even, that's not a post-apocalyptic situation. That, government is still there, government is still in charge, government is still running things, societal structure is still in place, but there was situations there where people were, it was legitimately, supply chain is like, we don't know how we're going to provide this service. And so, you go back to 2016. So the Navy, the Coast Guard, and the Washington State National Guard did a full-scale 9-day drill to test how they could respond to an earthquake in the Cascadia subduction zone, right? So that covers Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, Northern California. Right, that doesn't even cover Southern California, the San Andreas Fault and everything where incredibly active earthquake zone is, right? So the conclusions that they came to is that it would be 10 days, right? You think 10 days there have been hurricanes that have knocked out power, and services for longer than 10 days. So you're talking about 10 days. That's it, to where they would have a full-blown humanitarian crisis on their hands, right? And if there was a major earthquake in that region, and there's a major fault line that runs through that region, approximately about 1 million people would be without water, right? We're talking about going and turning your faucet on water for months, not days, but months, right? And so Luke spoke to it. You can survive without water about 72 hours, right? I don't know how the longest I've gone without water is. I don't even think it's been 24 hours, but I'm a fat kid. Like, I got a lot of fat that needs saturating. Like, I need my water. I gotta drink. I gotta drink my water. If you go, 72 hours, I don't even know that I could make it 72 hours without water. Like, I would probably go, shove my face in the first mud puddle that I saw, if I had to go more than 24 hours without water, and I make a poor decision and wind up with dysentery and just die from dehydration. But you think about that, 10 days, full-blown humanitarian crisis. You think about how long, so the military, right, as good as we are with our water purification units, with our response time, everything, inside the U.S. border, it takes on average 8 days to provide a response, right? And I don't want to I'm not going to get into the politics of COVID and, sending the USS Hope to, New York Harbor, after that, everything like that. But you think 8 days, that's a week and a day. I mean, literally, that is a week and a day before, if it's in place, the United States government can provide some relief, provide some assistance. 8 days. You can't survive more than 3 without water. So you do the math from there. And some of you stupid people, you won't be able to do the math. So that's 5 days too late for you. All right. For those of you on the Common Core math thing, and for you stupid asses out there, that's 5 days too late. And you know what? Maybe that's just Darwin culling the herd with you. Maybe we'll be stronger afterwards. So maybe it is a good thing. I don't know. We'll get into that now. But I do appreciate Carlton Zeus's challenge, and I will absolutely, at the end of this episode, I will absolutely name off a list of groups that can go fuck themselves. I apologize to Luke's mom and my mom right now for the language. Go ahead and get that out there. I know Roger's mom doesn't listen to our podcast, so it doesn't
My
matter.
mom quit after week 1.
Friends and family. Friends and family, baby.
Hey, Luke brought up a great point, man. Friends and family, the first one's always lets you down, right? So, with this, it's, absolutely water, food. It's a lot to unpack. The whole prepper thing, when I started diving into it, it was, like Luke spoke earlier before we jumped on here, talking about Wikipedia, right? He looks up one thing on Wikipedia, and then next thing you know, he's reading about the French Revolution, right? It's one of those rabbit holes. You can go down so many with the prepping thing, but at the end of the day, what we started out with, first you got to survive. You have to have that financial and, health foundation, good health foundation, to survive. And then getting your home ready. What's in your house? What can you survive on? What does it truly take to survive? Not be comfortable, but survive, right? Because you're not talking about being comfortable. You're just gonna be uncomfortable, and that's it. Hey man, Hurricane Kate rolled into the panhandle of Florida. I want to say, I can't remember. I think it was 1986. I was a kid, right? And that was like in September. It's Florida. It's still 90 degrees outside. It's like 85 at night with 80% relative humidity. Luckily my dad had a little generator, but it didn't run the air conditioning. It just ran the refrigerator and maybe the coffee pot, because he refused to go without coffee. And it's probably a good thing, because if my dad went without coffee, he would probably murder all of us the next day, right? So it ran the refrigerator and they kept shit, cold and frozen, and that was it. You didn't run the AC. It was like, hey, Dad, I'm really hot. And, Dad was like, okay, go to sleep. It was, that was that. And we were without power for we were without power for I want to say about 2 weeks. We were out without, other than our refrigerator and Dad's coffee pot running, we were without power for about 2 weeks because it came up into the panhandle of Florida. It came up into the Big Bend. It made landfall about 45, 50 miles south of Tallahassee. And it was a Cat 3, man. And, it was all about the timing. It made landfall at high tide, which means the flood surge was, as bad as it could be. Like, it was just all bad. It was bad like Blackbush whiskey. It's just bad. Just terrible, And so and so for, weeks we were uncomfortable, but we didn't go hungry and we didn't go without water. Why? Because Dad was out there, made a fire, and on his Coleman stove, until we ran out of propane bottles, Dad was boiling water. He was boiling drinking water. Because the generator was big enough to run the refrigerator and the coffee pot, but it wasn't big enough to run the pump on our well. And so he was literally out there, boiling water. So that's where those skills come into play. It's like, can you build a fire, right? If you can make a fire, you can cook, you can boil water, you can purify water to drink. You can do a lot of things with that. Can you sew clothes? Can you, those things, those skills are going to come into play. Nobody cares about your lesbian dance theory degree. Nobody cares about your fucking liberal arts degree. When the time comes, it's like, hey, man, I tell you what, I got some food. You don't have any, but I got a carburetor on a vehicle that needs to be rebuilt. Oh, you know how to rebuild a carburetor? Hey, rebuild my carb, and I'll give you 2 days worth of food. Shit like that. And I know, not everything's going to be apocalyptic. We kind of broke this down into 3 categories, and we're just kind of hitting the wave tops, getting that mentality. Your biggest asset, I think, in all of this is your will to survive, your will to make it through, right? There is nothing out there that can undo somebody's will to survive. You either have it or you don't. You can't go buy it. You can't train it. You either have it or you don't. Your will to survive. And we'll have some folks like Luke talked about earlier, getting Tom and Ryan on here, guys who are doing this and have been doing this for years, to talk about, the ins and outs of the different aspects of prepping. Because, yeah, man, you can run down some real rabbit holes on the whole prepping thing. So I'll throw it over to Luke, because I think I've rambled a little too much, and I'm going to drink some more of my New Riff single barrel rye.
Well, it's funny. Josh brought up, we were talking about the Wikipedia. I do that once a day. I'll go down the Wikipedia rabbit hole, and it's like the movie Inception. It's like, where did that idea come from? Where I ended up on the French Revolution today, and where I started out, I was eating my lunch of salad. I ate a freaking salad today. So weak, so girly. But anyway, I don't know why, but I typed in because I was thinking about so stupid. I was thinking about plasma, right? And I heard that there's like plasma when they make concentrate like orange juice. So I looked up orange juice concentrate on Wikipedia and wound up with the freaking French Revolution. I don't know how it got there. I got a few last thoughts. First of all, start off by saying, Josh triggered something in my mind there. Can't remember exactly what he said because he rambled so long, but basically my mind settled on equal opportunity, right? It's like all this, this culture of social justice warriors and stuff like that. When the shit hits the fan, like Josh said, can you repair my carburetor? I don't care if you're black, white, Native American, Chinese, it does not matter. You know what else doesn't matter? It doesn't matter if you're gay or not. What do you add to the fight of survival by being gay, black, white, trans? It doesn't matter. You either have it or you don't. And, maybe that's what we need, to shock everybody into what the fuck, man, we're all human. And it's not about, Martin Luther King, man, just read his speech, dude. But the survival instinct, Josh, like you were saying, you either have it or you don't. But I really think that goes into the hierarchy of needs kind of thing. If all you're doing is providing yourself your physiological needs, water, food, and, shelter. If you don't have anything else fulfilling you, where's your need to survive? that pyramid, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, actually makes a lot of sense, because the higher you go, the more your will to live. So you kind of do need those things. You need to survive first, yeah, so that you can have some sort of fulfillment, so you can keep surviving. So it's not all about nothing. So that's one thing to think about with the whole prepping thing. I mean, you don't need your Game of Thrones book, but maybe you need a few games you can play with your family without having to pull out a board, and knowing how to talk and relate to people. I'll try my hand at telling people to go fuck themselves here, and I'll start out with a quick story. There was a couple times, two times in my life, that I was close to dying of thirst, both actually in Afghanistan. And dude, I'll tell you, you'd be surprised. I heard a story before I was in Afghanistan about a kid from 519th who drank condensation water off of an air conditioner. And I found myself in the exact same situation as that kid, if that story was even true. And I was dying of thirst. My tongue was swelling, and we walked into a place that had an AC, and the only water in there was out on that condensation pan. And we all took turns drinking from that mosquito-infested water condensation pan, because the body starts playing tricks on you. I challenge anyone who's going to cast stones at those kids in the Andes that, resorted to cannibalism. You go and push the limits of hunger. Go push the limits of being thirsty, and you see where that takes your mind. You will really see the survival instinct start to kick in. You will definitely see that, and you'll be surprised at how your mind starts playing tricks on you as far as, what can I eat? What can I drink to stay alive? So before you go casting stones, I would never do that. I would never eat that. Yes, you would. You're human. And this is where I'm going to tell some people to go fuck themselves. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Josh's mom. But these people who are all about guns and ammo, we've hit on this a few times. I'm going to hit on it one last time. I would never be like that. But if all you've got is guns and ammo, and you miss 3 to 6 meals and you don't have any water, you're gonna find other people who only have guns and ammo, and you're gonna start raiding, food distribution centers and stuff like that. You're saying right now, no, I wouldn't do that. No, I have. No, if you're hungry, if you're truly hungry, not just with an appetite, with your stomach growling, but on the verge of death, you'd be surprised what you'd do. So you know what? That's just irresponsible, dude. If that's your means of survival, is having guns and ammo, you can go fuck yourself, because I got something for you. You come by my house, I've already been looking into how to make my own homemade claymores, and it will come to that. So it will come to that. One of the things I did, I love talking about the barter thing, because as I was preparing in San Antonio, I was, when I would go to the store, I'd look at cheap things and be like, well, if shit really goes down, there ain't going to be no price gouging laws. So what can I pick up? And the stuff I was picking up was, extra pepper and spices, ammunition, 22 ammunition. I didn't have a 22. I had a 22 pistol, but I'm not going to use that. I have 22 ammunition, seeds, water purification, lighters, water purification tablets, that is, lighters, 99-cent pack of 8 lighters, and sugar. Sugar and pepper and spices. I'm telling you, if the shit goes down, people will pay for that. People will pay for the sugar, the pepper, and the spices. And if you look at pepper and spices, the cost to weight ratio is really, really good, because people are going to want that comfort. They're going to want those spices. They're definitely going to want that sugar. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I'll kick it to Roger and have Josh tell everybody to go F themselves, and then and we'll prepare for the next episode.
All right. Thanks, Luke. Good points. And I know that we didn't really cover a lot of specifics. I think Luke, he asked me a couple of specifics, and, I gave some 30,000 foot answers, and, refused to be, painting a corner on anything concrete. But, one of the websites, and I just Googled this and pulled this up. So just for some of those that are interested in this, and like Luke and Josh mentioned, we have some subject matter experts out there. And on a future episode, we want to bring them in so they can, talk specifics, because I think that's part of it is, I'm not a subject matter expert, neither are the other two. So bring in some folks that can actually talk about what they've done, some of the challenges, some of the things that those that are interested out there in doing should do. But just pulled up from the prepared.com. It's a home checklist summary, and I'll run down it real quick, not to get, I don't want to labor the point too much, but water is talking about, store 15 gallons of potable water per person, roughly 1 gallon per day. And of course, this is over a smaller period of time. Talking about food, roughly 1,500 calories a day per person. The ability to make fire, light, heating and cooling, shelter. A good one that Luke brought up previously when we were talking about it was, I didn't even think about it, was medical. There's a lot of folks out there that are on prescriptions, not necessarily medical, but he spoke about contacts and glasses. Do you have enough contacts to make it through the time period that you need to? Do you, in light, or if you're out of contacts, do you have eyeglasses that you can wear? Because I'm sure it'd suck pretty bad not to be able to fucking see for an extended period of time. So, the medical, when you get to prescriptions, your hygiene items, communication. We saw this in the earthquake back in DC. What year was that? It was like 2014, 13, something like that, right?
Yeah, it was like 2012, 2013. I remember we were on mission, and I felt my car bouncing up and down. I was like, what the fuck? It was like, oh shit, we just had an earthquake.
I actually thought Josh was jumping on my trunk. But the funny thing is we were on mission and we all had CB radios, and we were the only ones with comms because the cell phone infrastructure went out. So, you get down to communications, power. That's a big one, right? It's not just flip a switch and this stuff works. When you get to power, it's got to come from somewhere. So you flip the switch, it doesn't work. Hey, do you have a generator? And more importantly, do you have fuel for that generator? When you look at, even getting a 55-gallon fuel drum, how long is that truly going to last you? You get down to tools, which a lot of this stuff, a lot of people have. Self-defense. We talked about finances. A large part of that is not just having the ability to make your house payment and this and that or whatever, but cash. As much as you can reasonably afford to stash, because at the end of the day, it's not going to be like, hey, let me run down here to the ATM machine. You may resort to having, how much cash you have on hand. Mental health. You talk about, what Luke just talked about, Maslow's theories, and as you move up that pyramid. And I think that's a lot of what you're seeing right now. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people are just rioting and looting because they're complete, fucking assholes. But, the base of that pyramid is being met, but there are needs up top that aren't. And as you start to see that, people go crazy. They get stir crazy, and they start to go a little nuts. So, mental health. We get into documents as far as copy of deeds, title, insurance policies, et cetera, and then local and emergency information that you may need. So with that, future episode, we are going to bring some more folks in that can speak a little smarter on it than we can, and we have. That will address some more specifics. So I'm gonna kick it around the horn one more time, because I know Josh has got a list that he's prepared for us. I'm not sure if it's comparable to Letterman's top 10 list or whatever, but I also want to throw out one other question. You guys want to give an update on the weight loss situation here and where we stand?
I don't know why you're bringing up old shit, but with the weight loss thing.
You guys still doing that? Hey, I'm telling you, man. I'm trying to send you guys some ho-hos because I actually want the bottle of scotch. So,
hey, so one thing, right? So big shout out to Will for doing that. I sincerely appreciated. I'm absolutely trying to become the owner of that bottle of scotch. But man, like, this bourbon's really good. And this rye whiskey is really good. So, yeah, so all right, so to give that shout out to Carlton Zeus and accept the challenge of the group of people that can go fuck themselves. Right. So there was a message from Carlton about, it was, I think last episode, maybe the episode before, when it was like, we were giving shout out to some of our listeners and our listener in Taiwan, right? It was like, if you're a Ministry of State security guy, you can go fuck yourself. Right. So I'm gonna go ahead. All right. Alibi. Luke's mom, I apologize. My mom, I apologize. You raised a better son. I'm just trying to be a better version, of me every day. So, so a list of people off the top of my head that can go fuck themselves. So I'm gonna start with the Boogaloo crowd. You can go fuck yourself, right? Those people, the Boogaloo crowd, I kind of couple those with the same people who are like, I just need to stockpile guns and ammo, and I'm gonna go take other people's shit, in a pandemic and post-apocalyptic situation. I got something for you. Come on by my house. I'm gonna hook your ass up, and I'll turn you into the next fucking steak and meat on my fire pit in my backyard, because I got we'll straight fucking Andes you. And let's see who else, right? So if you're racist, you can go fuck yourself. if you're, everybody associated that was on Jeffrey Epstein's flights, you can go fuck yourself as well. And let's see, BLM, you can go fuck yourself. Everybody ripping down statues and virtue signaling, you can go fuck yourself. And everybody that is a hypocrite in any way, shape, or form, you can go fuck yourself too. Right. So specifically those people who talk about, how America is stolen land from the Native Americans, but you're not willing to give up your house and your yard to the nearest Native American. And guess what? You're a hypocrite. You can go fuck yourself. Let's see. Let's see. I want to say right now, the people in my crosshairs and probably the worst, shittiest, most deplorable people on earth right now are white leftists. You can go fuck yourselves too, right? With your hypocrisy and your virtue signaling. Yeah, go.
You went there.
Yeah, I did. I went there, and I'm not gonna apologize. So that's it. That's a wrap from me. I'm good.
Well, how do you follow that? Woo! I think Josh forgot one group of people. He forgot the Apache Junction School Board Karens and Joe Sixpacks. So they can go F themselves too. I got that in there for Roger. Yeah, man, dude, all those people you told, all those groups, those are maybe some future podcast episodes right there, man. Holy cow. I mean, we talk about Epstein. My God, that's some crazy stuff. I really don't have much more to say, Roger, other than, this is a good topic. Whichever one of you guys came up with it, I think we can really go places with this. I'm looking forward to talking about it again.
Hey, thanks for jabbing me with my school board. I'm not gonna get into it now because I think we're already like an hour and a half into this thing. But I'm disappointed in myself. I said that a little bit earlier, and Josh tells me that he's disappointed in me every day, and that's pretty typical. But disappointed myself because some people are renting some space in my head for free. So I'll get into that a little bit later down the road with the school district or what have you. But real quick, again, we just want to thank everybody else for listening out there. Thank all of our listeners. Be sure to check us out on YouTube as well as the podcast. A couple of things that we want to do. Plug Luke and Josh's book. Get on Amazon. If you haven't bought it, get out there, buy the book, spend the $13. It goes to a great cause. Again, we want to throw a shout out to Carlton Zeus. Thanks for continuing to listen to our podcast. If after this one here, if Luke reaches out to him, he still listens. Hopefully he'll let us continue to use his music. And one last thing, and probably the most important thing to Horde, with all this talk about prepping, is Culper Canteen Cup episodes, right? So you can have all the food that you want. You can have all the water that you want. You can have all the money that you want, the guns and the ammo or whatever. But if you really want to fulfill those needs at the top of that pyramid, you need to have all, what are we at now? 23 episodes of Culper's Canteen Cup, because I think the post-apocalyptic world is going to be pretty fucking boring. So you'll definitely want as many of these episodes are out at that time. So with that said, I just want to say stay safe and keep your canteen cups tightly secured. Until next time, stay frosty. All right. You're on mute.
You didn't say the next prepper episode was going to be on food prep storage.
That's all right. The people watching YouTube.
I said it earlier.
Well, the people watching YouTube will know. You just said it. So we're going to put this part on.
Motherfucker, I said we were going to bring some SMEs on to speak about more specifics. Were you around for that part?
Say the next episode is on food prep and storage. You said we're going to bring some SMEs on.
Oh, well, I didn't know that's the next episode. Is that the next episode?
I sent it in the messenger, and you said, okay.
Why is everybody so upset, man?
Why are you getting so emotional?
The YouTube people are going to know. The YouTube people watching this are going to know. And they're also going to know I forgot about my weight loss thing.
Oh, yeah. So where are you at on the weight loss?
So, dude, I'm stuck at 207.
Actually, both of you did, right? Both of you did.
No, he didn't. Josh just said he's still working on it, but I'm still at 207. You're at 9. You've lost 9 pounds. See, that's why that's why I'm afraid of, dude. I'm stuck on 9. I'm just gonna have to eat less food because I'm still exercising, and it's just like the other day when I went on that 20 I walked 24 miles. Walked 20 fucking 4 miles. I left and I was at 207. I got back and I weighed myself and I drank water along the way, everything. I got back and I was 201. And I was drinking water and everything on the way. And I was like, oh man, maybe I burned off some fat. Literally, I ate that night, but not much. So I was so worn out. Next morning, I got up, weighed myself, fucking 207, dude. And it's like, what the fuck is going on?
At least it wasn't 208.
Yeah, I know. Fuck. So yeah, I don't know what's going on, man. I'm the only thing I'm cheating on is the alcohol, and I've cut way down on that. But yeah, man, I don't know. Hopefully it'll break through. I haven't started running
pointers
yet.
For you if you need to.
No, I
got pointers for you.
I got to start running though. That's the thing. I was like, I got to get down.
Curtis stories.
I was gonna get down to 205 and start running, but it's like, well, dude, I got to start running now. That's all there is to it.
No, you don't have to, dude. You don't have to start running now. You know what I just ordered on Amazon? Heavy bag.
What, heavy for bag punching?
With a stand, yeah, for my garage.
I can't. Well, with the stand, yeah. There's a gym here that has heavy bags. Dude, that's my favorite exercise actually. That jump rope. I love boxing. So
I literally I can't. I can, but I'm gonna pay for it. And in plantar fasciitis, I'm gonna pay for it. If I run, I can do sprints. I'll do intervals. I'll do intervals all day long, but I'm gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay in the pain department for it with plantar fasciitis, really bad. But dude.
Well, dude, see, here's the thing.
Give me a heavy bag, and I can get on that heavy bag, dude, and I can do that heavy bag for 30, 45 minutes, man. And I tell you what, man, you know, I'm not telling you anything. You get done with a heavy bag, 30, 45 minutes, man, dude, you're smoked. Dunsky.
Well, it's so, because I've done the math and everything on how many calories I'm burning doing this exercise, because I'm getting my heart rate to a point where I'm burning calories, okay? And I'm roughly measured how many calories I'm eating. And I'm like, why the fuck is this weight not coming off? So I did some research on it. And it's like, this is a big thing. It's like, what people don't realize is when you start exercising after a prolonged period of not exercising, your blood volume actually goes up.
Yeah.
Your blood volume goes up. So that's that can be up to 2 to 4 pounds. And it's like, they're like, stop measuring it by 1 to 2 pounds. They're like, you got to look at, we're only going 90 days. They're like, you got to look at 6 months and, whatever.
And that's why, dude, I weigh myself once a week.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. You can't count the pounds, man. It's measured in
It's measured in body fat. It's measured in waist size. It's measured in so many different areas than pounds, right? Because there's a difference between 215 pounds of somebody with 10% body fat versus somebody 215 pounds with 25% body fat. But
I guess I hit a milestone today. Big time milestone.
What's that?
I took a dump, and it was a decent dump. And first of all, my poop schedule's all off now, right? I used to poop before I go to work. Now it's like it doesn't come around till the afternoon. So, but I pooped, had a good one, and they were floaters. That means I've eaten enough fiber.
Dude,
hell yeah,
dude! I can't, man. I don't know what it is. I have this social fear of pooping at work. I can't poop, dude. I can't poop. I can't poop in public places. I can't do it.
I don't like it. I can do it. I don't like it.
That's because your diet's not right. Because ever since I started doing this vegan thing during the weekday, hey, there is no I don't like to poop. Hey, when it's time to go, it's fucking time to go. You got about 45 fucking seconds.
You work from home. You're at home, dude. You don't have to worry about pooping.
But I wake up in the morning, I get my cup of coffee because I'll walk outside or I'll walk the dog or I'll go run an errand real quick. Well, it's got to be after I've taken care of my business, because I'm telling you, it's sitting there and it's like, hey, it's coming. You better get up and start moving. I mean, and it's regular, man, which is great. But you know what? On the flip side of things, so the weekends are my cheat days, right? So Saturday and Sunday, I eat meat, I eat cheese, I eat eggs or whatever. Fucking Monday, dude. I mean, I already feel like Monday is brutal on my body. I mean, it is like fucking bad. And it takes all that entire day to get back to normal. Then come Tuesday, I'm good Tuesday through Friday. And then, I start the cycle all over again. So I don't know if I'm getting any better, but whatever.
I have a buddy who only poops at work. He like if he feels it like the night before, like, oh, I might have to take a dump, he will hold it so he can get. And he's got this whole philosophy on it. He's like, you kidding me? First of all, if I'm at work, they're paying me. Number one, they're paying me. He's a banker. He makes a lot of money, but it's like they're paying me to take a dump. I don't get paid at home to take a dump. I'm using their toilet paper, their water. I stink up their area. It's like I only poop at work.
I don't know what it is, man. Like I have this this social anxiety. I can't
Dude,
poop outside my house.
Did you work? So Army South, right? Did you ever work in their building? Army South?
No, I was always up at camp. Up at what was that
Bullis?
called? Bullis, yeah.
Okay, so at Army South, when I was at AOG, there was we were on the third floor, and those bathrooms, dude, there's Joes in there, and you know how Joes are with fucking bathrooms. I'm like, it's disgusting. And I was on the work poop schedule back then, but I realized the general is on the 6th floor. That's where the general is, the CG. And you can go to the 6th floor, you just can't go in his office. When I realized that bathroom is immaculate because no one goes up there because they're afraid they'll see the general and sergeant major. Fuck that, dude. No, man. That's where I pooped from then on, man. And there was nobody in there. It's awesome, dude. The CG's shitter. Oh.
That actually, it brings up a funny memory. Josh, you remember the Phantom shitter back at the Det?
Yeah, I remember that.
You there?
A lot of us called him Deli.
They had the Phantom shitter, and then the leadership got so fucking pissed, and then somebody went to a Snickers bar. In the fucking toilet.
Yeah. Dude, I don't know what it is, man. I don't know what it's about deployments, but you always have the Phantom shitter in the showers.
Dude. So with y'all remember Charles, right? Charles.
Oh yeah.
That dude, he would take a dump at work too, and he would take his wet wipes and all that stuff. Like he had this whole accoutrement he went to the shitter with. But when Charles and I were in Kosovo, those barracks in Kosovo that we were in, there were shared showers and shitters. And I don't know what my poop schedule was, but it coincided with his shower schedule.
Oh, geez.
And man, they had those examination shelves, those German toilets where your poop just sits there on a shelf. Every time, man, Charles would be in there taking a shower because Charles takes like 45-minute showers.
Yeah.
And it's on government time.
I'd take a shit, and dude, he would get so pissed. And then at the Det, my shit schedule matched up with his, so we were always taking a shit at the same time. You know that who sat on the other end of the hallway there? Past the door. I can't remember who that was. What unit?
It was the 6. It was Phil.
No. When I was there was a door, and it didn't belong to us. We had a supply room.
It was.
Yeah.
It was the DST guys.
Yeah. So I'd take a shit in their bathroom, dude. Me and Charles, that was our shitter.
So once they got kicked out of there, that became the 4 and the 6 spaces, and it was right outside Team 4. So I would always go there, right outside in that bathroom and poop. But it was, dude, yeah, the mad shitter would come through there every once in a while. It was, dude, and come to find out, man, dude, it had to be the fucking S1, man. It was fucking Deli, man. I'm telling you. People were like, no, man. Hey, Deli, like, no, man. I'm like, no, motherfucker, it's you.
It's
you. Whoever threw that Snickers bar in there, dude, that is fucking classic, and that is fucking ballsy.
So
fucking love it.
YouTube, here's the thing. When you put this stuff up, Josh, on the last one, did you say, hey, make sure you check out YouTube for interesting post podcast conversations? Because this is gonna be a good one, dude, on YouTube.
It's gonna be a good one, dude. Yeah, no, for sure. No, I didn't put that up. I'll put it up in the next one for sure. The dude, I don't know. So we're driving, right? Hey, so real quick, man. So next week, so we are leaving Monday late afternoon for Kansas, and we're in Kansas until we come back the 27th.
Jesus.
So, like, I'll take my laptop with me, but if we want to record next week, like, we gotta dial it in because
You got an
the
iPhone.
wedding is on.
Make that shit work.
What's that?
Oh, you got the wedding, dude. We do it. We do a fucking video. We do a YouTube podcast during the wedding.
Dude, I'll do a live stream during the reception.
No. I want the wedding.
What wedding is it? Whose wedding?
So Nicole's, it would be her second cousin. So Nicole's cousin's daughter is getting married, it's in St. Joe, Missouri, but they live in Medina, Kansas. St. Joe sits right on the border. It's Kansas, Missouri. And so it's about, Roger knows where Atchison is. It's like 30 minutes north of Atchison is where they live. So that's where we're driving to. So we're leaving here. We're headed through, parts of, basically we're going to leave Monday afternoon after Nicole gets off of work. We're going to drive over to Knoxville, Tennessee, spend the night. Then we're going to cut up to Kentucky, through Kentucky, and then on over to St. Louis, spend the night, and then on into Atchison, Medina, Kansas the next day.
What would you think about doing, like, Roger, you and I we could work this in. It would take some editing, but you're leaving Monday, Josh?
Yeah, we're going to leave Monday afternoon.
Maybe, Roger, you and I could come up with a topic, right? And we could do a podcast. And then every once in a while, we'll say, let's check in with Josh and see how he's doing.
That could be bad. I don't know. Let me stop you right there because I don't want to give too many spoilers away for all the YouTube watchers out there. So for all you YouTubers out there, hey, that's the end of your premium content that you don't pay for. That shit's free, so don't complain and don't bitch about it. You don't bitch about free shit, all right? But we definitely thank you for watching, and until next time, we'll see you next time.